A lot of times I hear people say diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we realize that they don't really know what that means. So when you think about inclusion, by definition, it's creating belongingness, focusing on cultural differences, and really embracing those differences. But if we truly don't understand what those differences are, we're not going to get very far, because on the surface, people will just say, okay, I embrace everyone's difference. But let's think about that, what that means. So it's not about just being able to say generally, I do things well, I treat everyone fine, I treat everyone equally, which is not what we want. We want people to understand what equity means, being inclusive and understanding those notions, thoughts, beliefs, those false beliefs that people have held onto for generations and centuries in this country that are rooted in racism. It's been a very enlightening, highly emotional, sensitive, uncomfortable phase and period, and we're still in it. But we have leaders who are now saying, in the words that we use, and many of you may have heard this being said throughout other forms and in books, that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So we're pushing people to that.
Data shows that organizations that are more inclusive, that are more diverse, are actually better able to win the talent. They have better customer satisfaction scores, engagement scores, their retention rates are better. And yet we're seeing that we haven't made a great improvement in this area. And I want to talk about healthcare, right? Because that's really where I come from. That's my background. Because I have to go back to the old adage that says we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And what I mean by that is standardization was built in the last, and I want to say it's in the last 40 years, to set us up for economies of scale, to set us up for scaling up. We talked about taking care of more patients, of growing, of expanding. And that's why standardization came about, right? But to me, the way I see it is that we've actually written the book of bureaucracy in healthcare, right? We wanted to be fair. We wanted everything to be consistent. And by doing that, we became exclusive in many, many ways.
Now, Nicole, we talked about this, that according to the American Hospital Association, transportation challenges prevent a staggering 3.6 million Americans from receiving medical care each year. So eliminating transportation barriers to care is at the core of how inclusion is a growth strategy at Lyft. Can you please explain the pillars of this growth strategy, especially when you consider that patient populations representing the cultural demographic shift must now be at the core of the industry's growth strategy?
Lyft has actually been working with healthcare organizations to improve access to care since 2016. And our goal really is to eliminate transportation barriers and improve access to care for Medicaid and Medicare covered populations who are the most vulnerable patient populations in our U.S. healthcare system. And these are the folks who often cannot afford any other form of transportation. And as you stated, every year, almost 6 million Americans miss a medical appointment due to lack of transportation. And these individuals are disproportionately older, they're disproportionately lower income, they're racial and ethnic minorities, they're people struggling with multiple chronic conditions, and they're people living with disabilities. And this is certainly detrimental to the health of tens of millions of people as a whole when we look at the magnitude of the issue. When we think about our healthcare offering, we're thinking hard about access to basic needs because they're all interrelated, right? Food, medical appointments, higher education, employment, it's all essential to a person's livelihood. Yep. So as we think about the ways in which we can uniquely meet communities' needs across the country, we recognize that we have to assess the needs of communities differently.